All right, let's get right into it. You know, if your brain feels like it's running on dial-up trying to keep up with today's information blizzard, trust me, you are not alone. What we really need isn't more news, it's a better operating system to process it all. So think of this as a much-needed system upgrade for your brain. This quote right here, it just absolutely nails the core problem. We're almost never actually at the scene of the crime, or in the room for the vote, or there for the discovery. Nope. We're watching from a distance, and we're seeing it through this long, tangled, and very messy chain of information. Here's another way to think about it. You're not living the event, you're watching the movie about the event. And let's be honest, that movie is heavily produced, right? What we see isn't raw reality. It's the final cut. It's been edited, it's got a soundtrack, and it's been marketed to make us feel a very specific way. So the very first patch in our OS upgrade is all about installing one critical distinction. It's the ability to draw a really hard line between what actually happens in the world and the version of it that we end up seeing on our screens. Okay, so on the left, we've got ground reality. This is the set of cold, hard, unchangeable facts. A pipeline was severed, a specific amount of money was transferred from one account to another, a law was signed. Then on the right, you've got public reality. And this is the projection. It's a carefully constructed narrative, heavily filtered and designed from the ground up to manage your perception of what actually happened. So how does this projection get made? Well, it's not by accident. It's a machine. See, the raw information gets sanitized by PR firms, then it's framed by powerful groups to fit their narrative, and finally, it's amplified by algorithms that are literally built to reward outrage, not accuracy. The big takeaway here is that what's trending is a product of optimization, not genuine importance. All right, now that we've got that foundation laid, it's time to install our base code. These are the 4 essential tools you absolutely need to deconstruct any story that comes across your feed. First up, an event. An event is the thing that actually happened. It's a physical, verifiable change in the world. Super important. It is not the conversation about the thing, it is the thing itself. Next, a claim. What's a claim? It's just a statement, a press release, a tweet, a quote in an article. It's some person or organization's attempt to define reality for you. On its own, it has zero truth value. You should handle it like a radioactive substance until you can prove it's safe. So, how do you verify a claim? You do it with evidence. This is the hard stuff, the bank ledgers, the satellite photos, the chemical analysis. This is the verifiable data that can either back up a claim or completely tear it to shreds. And that brings us to my personal favorite, traces. Think of these as the digital or physical breadcrumbs that get left behind, often by accident. The metadata in a photo, a weird spike in seismic data, a financial anomaly nobody can explain. You know, traces are often the things that reveal what someone was trying to hide. And here's why this distinction is so critical. The event is the factory fire. The claim is the company blaming it on a lightning strike. The moment you confuse the two, the moment you treat the company's claim as the event itself, you've just laundered their legal defense right into your brain and accepted it as a fact. That is a catastrophic analytical failure. So, how does a raw fact get so twisted by the time it reaches us? It's a journey. Let's trace that path from a clean event to a totally warped public narrative. It starts with an event in ground reality. That event generates traces, but those traces are immediately filtered by institutions that are trying to manage their liability. Then, whatever's left is fed to platform algorithms that amplify the most outrageous parts. By the time it finally reaches you as public reality, it has been through a multi-layered gauntlet of distortion. Okay, time for the final part of our OS upgrade. Now that we know how reality is projected and warped, we need to learn how to actually read this new landscape. This is all about distinguishing what's truly important from what's just loud. So, on one side, we have Salience. This is what's loud, what's trending, what everyone is yelling about. Think of a celebrity trial that takes over every newsfeed. On the other side is Significance. This is what has actual material impact on the world, like a quiet regulatory change that affects the water you drink. Your new OS has got to learn to resist confusing the two. And this is so key. Signal is not about volume. It's about diagnostic value. Ask yourself, does this piece of information actually reduce my uncertainty and help me understand the world better? Most viral stories are incredibly high on salience, but have almost zero diagnostic signal. They're pure noise. Now let's talk about a real power user tool, understanding silence. See, silence isn't just an absence of data. When a powerful person or institution is expected to speak up, legally, logically, structurally, their refusal to do so is a massive piece of data all by itself. Look at the difference here. A small town missing data because they just don't have the budget for it, that's one thing. But a government refusing to comment on using spyware, that is a strategically managed absence. That silence is a high confidence indicator. The crucial point here is their silence is the signal. And with that, our cognitive OS upgrade is nearly complete. So let's just install one final application to put this all to use. Here's a simple but really powerful rule of thumb. Prioritize the document trail over the discourse trail. A company's legally binding SEC filing is always going to tell you more about their true priorities than their public-facing Twitter account. You've got to hunt for the paper trail. So let's recap the key functions of your new OS. First, remember that reality is a projection, not a mirror. Second, break everything down into events, claims, evidence, and traces. Third, learn to ignore the noise of salience and hunt for true significance. Fourth, listen for those strategic silences. And finally, always dig for the original source. And there you have it. Installation is now complete. You're officially running the new software. Look, this isn't just a new way to consume news. It's a new way to see the architecture of power and influence that's shaping your world. So the only real question left is, now that you can see the code, what are you going to do with it?